So I'm Ben. I'm an engineer from the Alchemy Rollups team. I work with a lot of our customers getting their chains spun up, configured, and ultimately integrated and supported into the larger Alchemy platform. And the team's seen a lot of really cool activity in the last year, lots of rollups getting launched, new use cases unlocking. The space, at least I think, is really starting to move forward. But it's important to remember that launching a rollup, going live with your rollup, it's not the finish line. It's actually the start of a whole new set of challenges. So today, I'm going to share some of Alchemy's learnings around what happens after Mainnet and how we can take a rollup that's launching and turn it into a rollup that's thriving. So we'll start by imagining a world. And in this world, rollups just work. Liquidity moves freely as if there's no silos, there's no barriers between chains, and users feel that same seamlessness. In fact, it's so seamless, users feel like they're using the internet that we use today. Sorry. And developers, they don't have to make these painstaking decisions where they're compromising between security, scalability, composability. It just works. It's all built into the foundation of what they're working with. And that's where we want to go. But right now, rollups just aren't there. And so we had to ask ourselves, where are rollups struggling? What's holding them back? And the first thing is that scaling isn't automatic. More users, more transactions, they don't just work out of the box. Teams run into execution bottlenecks, performance issues, and cost efficiency problems. So getting the right infrastructure is important, or else when you scale up, you're just going to break your rollup. The second is siloed liquidity. Rollups are going to hinder their growth if they cut themselves off from the larger world. And that's going to make it harder to attract users, capital, developers. And then lastly, onboarding remains one of the toughest friction points in the space. Users don't want to manage wallets. They don't want to manage gas tokens, seed phrases. The UX is just too complex. And we've worked with a bunch of teams who have run into these walls. They've launched, they've gone live, but they didn't connect to enough liquidity, or they didn't get enough users onboarded, and they had to shut down their rollup. And so we're aiming to kind of break through those walls. And they're not minor issues either. These are the core bottlenecks that are preventing rollups from reaching a wider audience. And you might be asking, what about all the cool infrastructure advancements we have made? Shared sequencers, modular DA layers, doesn't that help with making rollups scalable and to a wider audience? And the answer is yes, but they don't solve the three problems I'm talking about. You could have the fastest blockchain in the world, but if your liquidity is siloed, it doesn't really matter if you've got all the coolest sequencers, all the coolest DA layers. The same with proving systems. ZK is great, but it doesn't solve onboarding. Users don't want to deal with multiple gas tokens. Bridging is just too complex. And so for all intents and purposes, rollups today are still behaving like individual islands. And without any sense of coordination, the space is going to stay stagnant. And so while these are great technical advancements, they are not automatically going to create a thriving rollup. It takes more than that. And this leads me to talk about the problem we're seeing with a lot of different RAS providers. They're built for speed and not longevity. And what do I mean by that? Here's what I mean. I can log on to almost any RAS provider today, make a few configuration changes, type in some stuff, and in 2 to 5 minutes, I've got a rollup. And that's really cool. But once I get that rollup, what do I do next? What if I want to upgrade my chain? What if I want to, do we have a plan to bring users on board? Do we have a plan to bring more developers so we can create great on-chain products? We're finding that a lot of these RAS platforms, the buck stops with giving you your mainnet, and they don't support you beyond that. In short, you're on your own. But success isn't about launching a mainnet. It's about what you do after going live. So let's talk a little bit about what winning rollups focus on. And the first thing is the realization that good infrastructure is just the starting point. A solid foundation is essential, but it won't make your rollup successful on its own. Second, they're hyper-focused on connecting their rollup. In short, the more connected your rollup it is, the more valuable it is to users, developers, and investors. And finally, they are locked in on UX and making it frictionless. The best rollups, they won't make users think about what chain they're on. If I'm on a rollup, it'll just work. And that's why Alchemy doesn't just help you launch fast, we help you scale into something that lasts. And we do that because we're not just a RaaS provider. We are the full developer platform. So yes, you can launch your rollup, and then you can take the benefits of what we've already got. Our top-tier Supernode infrastructure for your developers and your users with reliability of 99.99%. And then you've got the data tools, the APIs, the SDKs, so your developers are empowered to build incredible on-chain products and tools. And for your users, spin up your rollup and link in an Alchemy account abstraction. It's just that easy. No more gas, no more complicated bridging. It's just seamless. And then finally, flexible interop. Connect however makes sense for your rollup. We're not going to tell you you have to use one vendor, you have to use one methodology. We're a big believer that there are going to be many winners in interop. So maybe you've got a special case where you want to go rollup to rollup. Maybe you're focusing on going to L1s. Alchemy is going to give you the interop tools that help you with your use cases so you can build your way. And so you don't just launch fast, you scale with the full power of this developer platform. But before we scale up our rollup, you do have to make a key decision, and that's what type of rollup am I going to make? And beyond the general purpose rollups we see like Polygon, like Base, we're seeing two paths emerge, and those are app chains and ecosystem rollups. App chains offer full sovereignty, deep customization, and complete control over the execution and governance. They're ideal for teams that need to fine-tune everything for a specific use case. A partner that comes to mind here is WorldChain. So they're very focused on human-centric transactions, and so their rollup optimizes for these transactions. The second type of rollup that we really see are ecosystem rollups. So on the other hand, instead of starting isolated, ecosystem rollups tap into the benefits of those network effects, making it easier to integrate with existing ecosystems. We see this in one of our partners, Syndicate, who's actually building a sequencing chain for other rollups to post to. Now, neither approach is inherently better. It all depends on what you're trying to prioritize and optimize. But here's the key. Success comes from connectivity. Even the most sovereign app chains are going to need to tap into liquidity, and the strongest ecosystem rollups need great UX and developer adoption. And you guessed it, Alchemy provides all the tools for both of these methods, so you can build flexibly the way you want to build. Because in the end, users, they don't care about your rollup. They care about outcomes. And what does that mean? It means that the best UXs are going to be invisible to the users. They shouldn't have to think about what chain they're on, if it's a rollup, if I need this token, if I need gas. It'll just work. The second is how intents and automation are going to completely change how we execute on rollups. I envision a world where I just say something and the chain understands what I'm saying and it goes and makes transactions because I told it to. And so the rollups that remove user and developer friction, they're going to be the rollups that dominate. And that's why the best rollups don't just launch and exist, they'll connect, whether it's through shared liquidity, composability, interoperability. Success comes from removing friction from users and giving your developers the tools to build not just in your ecosystem, but across all ecosystems. And Alchemy gives you the infrastructure to do exactly that. So, as the rollup landscape continues to change fast, it's time for us to build rollups that last. And we're going to be standing next to each and every one of those rollups every step of the way, from day 1 to day 5, from year 1 to year 5 and beyond. So whether you're launching a new rollup, or maybe you've got a Rollup already, but you want to take it to the next level, it's really time to start talking to Alchemy. Thanks, everybody.